all night long. Fancy helping some faces, young and old, to warm the hearts when it's snowing and it's cold. You're gonna have to find a crew, it can't be anyone. They'll have to be there by your side and do what must be done. So go, man, you know that you have it night through day. The pain you'll feel it to bring it on with the Archie County Band. Doubts come and some may never die. So I'll ask myself, should I stop before I try? No way, man, mistake, it has been said. I'm all in, so there's nothing I'll regret. But time is ticking and there's so much that's going through my mind. Will I make it? Yes, I will. Our spirits are entwined. So let's get this show on the road. I'm here, I'll stay and I'll carry the load to bring it on with the Archie County Band. But hold on a second now, I'm starting to feel the strain. Was it a bicycle? What is wrong with my brain? Is it the end of me? No, I must still believe. So I'm still alive, you see. Heck yeah, now I'm on my way. But let's stay focused, there's still a job in hand that we must do. Cameras start to click, we know what create is something new. So go, Marty and Sarah and Mark and Matt, Owen,
Good morning, folks. You are very welcome to Bandido Talks. I know, folks, I was just off the phone. You could probably see it on the thumbnail. I was just off the phone to Sir Keir himself. Sir Keir Starmer. Folks, we've had Sir Keir. We've talked about him before, many times on the show. And you know, I've always tried to be balanced in my views. You know, I'm a fair man. And I think Keir appreciated that. You know, all those previous shows, we did a show maybe about a month or so ago called In Defense of the Politicians. We did that show. And you know, Sir Keir, I believe, word has it on the street, Sir Keir saw and listened to that show. And he thought, you know what? The Bandido seems like a fair man. And now that I, as Prime Minister of the country, now that I'm going through a bit of a difficult time, you know, it's been tough. The local elections have been disastrous. And everybody wants my head on the chopping block. Everyone is jumping on the bandwagon. Everybody wants to give me the heave-ho out of government to see the end of my leadership. But I wonder, is the Bandido still going to be a fair man? That's what Sir Keir appeared to have been thinking. And so the Bandido, I can't reveal too much, but the Bandido has been contacted by some figures, some anomalous figures, representing, they claim, Mr. Starmer. You could see it on the thumbnail. Sir Keir was on the phone, and he wanted to know, did the Bandido still have a balanced viewpoint? Was the Bandido going to jump on the bandwagon and kick Sir Keir in the nuts? You know, he's down on the canvas. He's not down and out yet, but he could be soon. And so the question is, has the Bandido thrown Sir Keir under the bus? Well, folks, look. It's easy to kick a man when he's down, isn't it? It's easy to kick a man when he's down. And you know, I thought this morning, in light of Labour's poor showing in the local elections, there's an increasing amount of individuals, people we could say, members of the population, who want to see Sir Keir get the heave-ho out of government. And normally, folks, as a general rule of thumb, whenever I see a whole bunch of peons calling for someone to get the heave-ho from any position, anywhere here on the planet, political position, business position, it doesn't matter. When I see a whole bunch of peons calling for someone's head to be chopped off, I like to stand back from the crowd and think, you know, are all of these people just jumping on the bandwagon? Have they even thought through why it is that they want Sir Keir Starmer to have his head chopped off? Do they even know their own logic? Have they thought through this? Do they know why they want Sir Keir to be fired as Prime Minister? You know, experience tells me, folks, that you see the average peon who is probably on saying something like, yes, we need to get Sir Keir out. He's destroying the country. He's sending the country down the toilet. You know, the average peon who goes on like that. You know, they read the newspaper, they listen to the news, they just say and do whatever is fashionable. They just say and do whatever the algorithm on social media wants them to say and do. And I could almost guarantee you that a whole bunch of these peons who are calling for Sir Keir's head, I could almost guarantee you they are on social media. The algorithm is probably feeding them a whole bunch of anti-Keir Starmer rhetoric and content. And I can almost guarantee you that the conclusion that these peons have come to, it isn't even their own conclusion. It's the conclusion of the algorithm. I could almost guarantee that that is probably what has happened. All these people, Labour out, Starmer out, their own minds have been manipulated and they don't even know why they have come to these conclusions. The algorithm is doing the thinking for them. So folks, in order to restore balance to the universe, in order to pull you out of an algorithmic echo chamber, the Bandido is going to go against the grain this morning. Having received his call from anonymous individuals, having received his call from Sir Keir to see, am I going to just throw Keir under the bus? Or am I going to be balanced? Am I going to defend Sir Keir Starmer? I bet you didn't think that this morning, folks. The Bandido of all people. You were probably thinking, surely not. The Bandido couldn't be defending Sir Keir Starmer. But that's exactly what we're going to do this morning. We're going to step out of the algorithm's echo chambers that it's trying to lock you into. Because most of you, I can almost guarantee, most of the peon public, if I were to cross-examine the logic of the peon public and really dig into why it is that they want Sir Keir Starmer to be booted out of government, if I were to dig in to their logic, I can guarantee you, almost guarantee you, that the vast majority of people, the logic would crumble and fall out of their arse. Most people think they understand. Yeah, I want Sir Keir to go for this reason or that reason. They haven't even come to their own conclusions. The algorithm has told them what to think. And then when I would cross-examine them on their conclusions, they wouldn't even know what to say in light of a cross-examination. So I'm doing you a service, folks. I'm doing you a favor this morning. The point of this show is to actually present to you an argument. It's a sort of an unusual argument in defense of Sir Keir Starmer. It's not a typical argument of defense. I'm not going to stand here and tell you what a wonderful person Sir Keir Starmer is and how magnificent he has been as Prime Minister in leading this country that we're going to call the United Kingdom, or this plot of land on earth. I'm not going to do that. It's a more unusual defense of Sir Keir. That was the agreement I came to with Sir Keir on the phone. I said, look, I will defend you, Sir Keir, but you've got to stop calling me. The Bandido has work to do throughout the day. So if I do a defense of you, Sir Keir, will you stop calling me? That's the arrangement. Now I said that the nature of the defense was going to be an unusual defense. I wasn't going to kiss his arse or worship him. I told him it would be an unusual defense. An unconventional defense of his leadership. He agreed and said, Mr. Bandido, the local elections have been a disaster, so any support I can get at all, no matter how unusual, no matter how unconventional that support may be, I'll take it. So you fire ahead, Mr. Bandido. You do your video. You do your live show. I said, sure. As long as I get to put my unconventional, unusual spin on the defense, I'm a happy man. So that's what we're going to do, folks. The purpose of the show is to take you out of an algorithmic echo chamber, because your conclusions about Sir Keir Starmer, about Sir Keir Starmer's leadership and his government, probably are not your own conclusions. They have probably been formed by the algorithm. We're going to step back and we're going to actually learn here, hopefully, how to actually come to some balanced conclusions surrounding Sir Keir, his leadership, his government, and all of that malarkey. All right, so to get us started, let us first reflect. We're going to reflect with the help of the BBC, our mates the BBC, a great ally of Bandido Talks. The BBC did a little article in the last, whatever it was, 15 hours, talking about the recent local elections. We're just going to read this little article, just so that we can ground ourselves, understand the nature of the pickle that Sir Keir is in. And then we're going to actually get into our defence of Sir Keir Starmer. Our unusual, unconventional defence, but defence nonetheless of Sir Keir Starmer. Okay, so let's get our little article up here first. Let's have a look and see. Here it is. There he is. My goodness me. Well, folks, is that the face of a beaten man, is it? Word on the street has it, folks, that what you are seeing on screen, you see Sir Keir Starmer as he stands before you on screen. Word on the street has it that apparently that is what Sir Keir Starmer looked like before he called the Bandido. Now, obviously, once he called the Bandido, and the Bandido agreed to do a defence video, a defensive analysis, we could say, of Sir Keir. Sir Keir was much happier. He was a happier man once he knew he had the Bandido's support in a slightly unconventional fashion, or a slightly unconventional way. So look, he looks like a bit of a defeated man here. You know, the title of the article says, what does the title of the article say? Oh, it says, tough election results hurt, but don't weaken my resolve, says PM. Well, of course they're not going to weaken his resolve. He has the Bandido on his side. So let's read a little bit of this, folks. We're not going to read it all, but we're going to read a little bit of this. This was 15 minutes ago. It was certainly updated 15 minutes ago. So recent stuff. Let's read this. Let's zoom in here so we can see this nice and clearly. Let's have a look. Let's move over here. All right. So, let's go from the top here. Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer has said Labour's, quote, tough local election results in England, quote, hurt, but insisted that, quote, days like this don't weaken my resolve to deliver the change that I promised. Sir Keir is still optimistic. Has that anything to do with the Bandido? Should the Bandido claim credit? Perhaps not at this early stage. Let's keep going. So far, 45 of the 136 councils have finished counting votes, but early results have seen Labour lose more than 250 seats, Lord Jesus. It's not what Sir Keir wants to hear. The Conservatives have also lost ground, while Reform UK had a good night, winning over 350 council seats and gaining control of Newcastle under Lyme and Havering. Such a name. The Green Party has made some gains, but the majority of their target seats have not yet finished counting votes. The Liberal Democrats won Stockport and Portsmouth, but lost control of Hull in the face of Reform wins. So Reform is flying high, folks. Sir Keir flying low. Counting is underway in Scotland and Wales for seats in the parliaments. In Wales, Labour is expected to lose control of the Senate, ending its 27-year-long rule in Wales. You know, you can understand, folks, why Sir Keir, I was going to say Sir Fear. Maybe he is Sir Fear at the moment. He's fearful about the future of his leadership. But Sir Keir You can see why he looked like a bit of a defeated man there. 27 long years, and under his reign, they're going to lose that control of the Senate in Wales. Not looking good, folks. We'll keep going here. Follow along. The party's poor showing in the elections will further fuel questions about Sir Keir's leadership, which have been growing for months. Now, Sharon Hoffman, the only remaining Labour councillor in Hull after Reform won 10 seats on the council, said the National Labour government had, quote, done us a lot of damage. Well, old Sharon isn't happy. Quote, people on the door, when we were knocking, were saying, we think you're a great councillor. We really support you. But we cannot support Labour. Oh dear. Keir seems like a big stain across the party. People mentioned that they would not vote for Keir Starmer or for anybody that represented Keir Starmer. Speaking in Alling, West London. How do you pronounce that? How do you pronounce that word? Alling? I'm going to go with that. Sir Keir said, the results are tough. They are very tough, and there's no sugarcoating it. We have lost brilliant Labour representatives across the country. These are people who put so much into their communities, so much into our party. And that hurts, and it should hurt. I take responsibility. Sir Keir is taking responsibility. My goodness me. Asked if he would step down, he said, look at this, folks, the resilience. Let's highlight this. I'm not going to walk away and plunge the country into chaos. All right. So look, we get the gist, folks. If you want to read the article, there it is. On the BBC News, you can see here are some of these little results coming up, live updates coming up on screen. There's Labour 253, Reform UK 339. Not looking good. Not looking good. That's the article, folks. There's Sir Keir. Defeated man, perhaps. But anyway, let's get the main screen back up and see what it is we can make of all of this. So as you can see, Sir Keir, it's not looking good. Labour looks like it's going to get tanked in these local elections. And as a result, as you can hear from the article, people in the population seem to like some of the Labour councillors. But you know, because they are associated with Sir Keir Starmer's government, with a Sir Keir Starmer leadership, they don't even want to vote for councillors that they like. So what is it, folks, that we can actually learn here from this defence that I'm going to mount of Sir Keir Starmer? Because it would be oh so easy for me to just come on here live and do what everybody else does. Everybody else wants to just criticise Sir Keir Starmer. But you see, folks, there's something interesting in that alone, isn't there? Don't people just love to bitch, whine and complain? Oh, Sir Keir Starmer, his government, the reason why my life is shit is because of Sir Keir Starmer and his leadership and his government. The reason why I'm a fat, obese mess is because of Sir Keir Starmer. The reason why I'm just unsuccessful in life, I have nothing of value to offer to my community, to the wider world. It's all Sir Keir Starmer's fault. That's what the average peon comes out with. Basically, the average peon wants a reason, an excuse. They want to be able to present an argument for why their life is shit. That's what the average peasant, the average peon, the average retard in the population, the average peon doesn't want to take responsibility for their own life. We talk about this on the show all the time, folks, about taking responsibility and not fucking blaming other people, including politicians. I'm not saying politicians are perfect people. I'm not saying I agree with what a whole bunch of politicians do and say. But I'll tell you what I'm not going to do. I'm not going to bitch, whine, and fucking complain about the state of my existence being the fault of a politician. What a load of garbage. Talking about absolving yourself of responsibility, taking no self-accountability for your own life and actions. And this is a classic hallmark, folks, of algorithms and echo chambers. There will be a whole bunch of peons in their little echo chamber on social media. The algorithm will be feeding them anti-Keir Starmer content, anti-Labour content. And these retards, these average peons in the population, they will gobble it all up. They'll gobble it all up. And then they'll have what I like to call a get out of jail card. It's beautiful, isn't it, folks? When the algorithm convinces you that the reason why your life is shit is because of Sir Keir Starmer and because of Sir Keir Starmer's government and the Labour Party, isn't that just music to the average peon's ears? Why is it music to the average peon's ears? Because it now gives the average peon an excuse, a reason to blame someone for why their life is shit. And when the average peon blames someone else, they absolve themselves of responsibility and they do not self-reflect. They don't look inwards. They only ever look outwardly. They only ever look externally at the things that are happening outside of themselves. They don't look internally. The algorithm has given them a get out of jail card. No, the reason why your life is shit, no, it's not your fault. You're not a lazy schmuck. You're not a fat obese mess. No, you have nothing of value to offer. You have no skills. You've got a bad attitude. You don't want to, present the best rendition or version of yourself. No, it's nothing to do with you. It's to do with Sir Keir Starmer and his government. That's the reason why your life is shit. Yeah, that's right. And the algorithm just keeps feeding it to you over and over again. And what happens as people gobble this garbage up? People just continue to move themselves further away from a self-accountable state. And what happens, folks, when you don't take self-accountability? What happens when you don't take responsibility for your own life? Well, when you absolve yourself of responsibility, you don't look to improve. You basically pass the buck. You offload the responsibility to someone else. And you basically say, well, not my fault. Not my fault. It's Sir Keir Starmer's fault. And you lose the lessons. What do we always say on the show, folks? When you lose, don't lose the lesson. When you absolve yourself of responsibility and you don't take self-accountability, you're not accountable for your own actions, you lose the lessons in life. And when you lose the lessons in life, you lose out on opportunities to further improve your circumstances in life. Instead of focusing all of your time, energy, and attention on trying to improve yourself, you're spending and investing all that time, energy, and attention in trying to conjure an excuse and blame someone else so that you don't have to take responsibility. That's a classic symptom of being immersed in a social media or broad media landscape full of algorithms trying to convince you of what to think and to try and literally implant, literally like a surgeon fucking transplanting someone's liver into your body. The algorithms just take conclusions and they transplant them. They put them into your mind. And you don't even know how they got there. So let's have a look at this. Let's start taking, in this show, folks, let's take a bit of responsibility. Let's be self-accountable here. I'm going to lay out three different things. Three different points of defense for Sir Keir Starmer. Let's get into the first one. In our most recent, I'm saying most recent, we did a show a few months ago. I referenced it at the beginning of our show today. It was a live show we did called In Defense of Politicians. I would encourage you to watch that live show. You'll find it on the channel. Go back into our live shows. We've got playlists and everything set up. Go into the live shows and find the episode called In Defense of Politicians, something like that. I would encourage you to watch that. Folks, one of the primary leading causes of frustration in this life is when you inappropriately allocate expectations that are too high to another person. What happens when you allocate expectations and set the bar too high for someone? What happens when you have very high expectations for people and they don't meet your expectations? They come in underneath your expectations. They violate your expectations. What happens, folks, in life whenever people do not meet our expectations? We get pissed off at them. We get frustrated. We get annoyed. We get angry. Use whatever word you want to use. It's very important, folks, in life, and this is what I talk about in that previous live show, In Defense of Politicians. And it's going to form the first point of our defense for Sir Keir Starmer. It is extremely important, folks, in this life that you appropriately allocate reasonable expectations to people. Why is this important? Because if you are setting the bar unrealistically high for people, if you set the bar unrealistically high for someone, think of it like the high jump, folks. You know the high jump that we see at the World Championships and the Olympics? If you set the high bar too high and people can't actually get up over the bar, what's going to happen? They're going to fall short of the jump. They're going to either clatter into the bar or they're going to jump in underneath the bar. They're not going to make the jump. They're not going to get up over the bar cleanly and land on the other side. If you are coaching someone in the high jump, think about this. If you're a coach and you're coaching someone to become a better high jumper, and let's say the person you are coaching is a fucking 10-year-old who is, 5'1" in height. So let's say you've got a 10-year-old who's 5'1". Are you going to place the high jump bar at 6 foot? Why would you do that? If you've got a 10-year-old who's 5'1", why would you place the high bar at a height of 6 foot? They're never going to make the jump. Why would you have the expectation that that 10-year-old who's 5'1" is going to be able to jump over a 6 foot high bar? That would be a ludicrous expectation of that kid. And if you keep the high bar up here at 6 foot, what do you think is going to happen to the kid, but to you as their coach? If you just keep the high bar up there and you keep saying, make the jump, I expect you to be able to make this jump, what is going to happen? As that kid routinely, jump after jump, comes in underneath the high bar and they feel over and over again and they continue to violate your expectations. They come in under your expectations. What's going to happen? You're going to get pissed off. You as the coach, you're going to get pissed off if you keep the high bar up here at 6 foot and you keep telling the kid, make the jump, and they can't fucking make the jump. They're 5'1". You're going to get frustrated. And wouldn't it be ludicrous, folks? Wouldn't it be just ludicrous for you to channel that anger, frustration, irritation at the kid? That would be stupid. That would be retarded. The kid is 5'1". They've only been practicing the high jump for a year. It would be retarded for you as the coach to start funneling your anger and irritation towards the kid for not being able to make the jump. That would be an idiotic thing to do. What would be the right thing to do in a circumstance like that? The right thing to do would be to lower the bar. In other words, lower your expectations of what you think the kid can do when it comes to the high jump. That would be the sensible thing to do. So instead of getting angry at the kid, because that's unfair, the kid's 5'1". They've only been practicing the high jump for a year. And you're expecting being the key word, you're expecting this kid to be able to jump up over a 6-foot high jump bar? That's retarded. Idiotic. The sensible thing to do would be not to channel your frustration and anger towards the kid. The sensible thing to do would be to lower your expectations. And in our example, the action of lowering expectations is represented by lowering the high bar. You lower the high bar to a position whereby the kid can make the jump. And then you work from there. You lower the bar, you lower the expectations, you lower what you expect of the kid so that the kid can make the jump. And you see, once the kid starts to make a few jumps, you start to get less irritated because you've now accepted, okay, the kid can't make the high jump when I have the bar set at 6 foot. Okay, I'm accepting that reality. So through accepting that reality, I'm now going to lower my expectations through lowering the bar. And now the kid can make the jump. Folks, it is no different with politicians. The average peon in the population who is fucking calling for the guillotine, for Keir Starmer's head to be put on the guillotine, these people in the population are unfairly, in my mind, channeling frustration and irritation at Keir Starmer. The question I have for these peons in the population is the following. Why in 2026 do you have the high bar up here for politicians? What world are you living in? At this stage, folks, it should be exceedingly clear to you what a politician represents. If you are still going around with this retarded notion that politicians represent the people, politicians are my voice in the community, politicians are going to do what's in my best interests. If you're still going around with that notion in your head, you're a dipshit. Those are unrealistically high expectations of politicians. And so what's happening? Because you have unbelievably high and unrealistic expectations of what a politician should be, what a politician should represent in an ideal world, you're then getting frustrated when you see the politicians not make the high jump. You're getting frustrated when the politicians routinely violate your expectations. When the politicians routinely come in underneath your expectations. The fault is not with the politicians, folks. The fault is not with Sir Keir Starmer. That's the first point I'm trying to make here. Fuck Sir Keir Starmer. Forget about what he's doing. We know what politicians are. Jesus Christ, folks. It's 2026. Politicians, they talk a big game and they don't deliver. They make promises that they can't keep. They put their interests before yours. They put the interests of their donors before yours. They put the interests of their own little clubs and cliques before yours. They'll tell you what you want to hear, but they won't deliver what it is that you want. They will manipulate you in the lead up to an election. They will say all the things, all the buzzwords, all the catchy phrases that we've become accustomed to. And of course, they will never back those words up with the legitimate action necessary to actually bring about change that would positively influence you. We know this, folks. Why are you still in this state of thinking that a politician is something that it isn't? When I look at Sir Keir Starmer, you know what I think of? I think of a grizzly bear. That's what I think of. You see, whenever I go out into Yellowstone National Park, do I have the expectation? It's all about expectations, folks. When I go out into Yellowstone National Park, do I have the expectation that the grizzly bears out in Yellowstone National Park are going to walk up to me, sit their rear end down on the ground, and have an hour-long intellectual discussion with me about how the universe came into existence? Of course not! Am I going to go out into Yellowstone National Park and think that the grizzly bears are just going to walk up to me and, start snuggling into my chest? They're going to lie down on their back and want me to scratch their belly. Is that the expectation I have when I would go out into Yellowstone National Park? Fuck no! If I'm going out into Yellowstone National Park, I'm going out there with a fucking rifle, pepper spray, and every weapon that I can get my hands on, because I don't expect the grizzly bears to interact with me in the same way that my mother interacts with me. You get what I'm saying? Grizzly bears have grizzly bear psychology. It's quite likely that if I go out into Yellowstone National Park with the intention of hugging the bears and sitting down and having an intellectual discussion with the bears about how the universe was formed, it's quite likely that those bears are going to pin me to the ground and start eating me alive. Why would I have expectations that would suggest otherwise? So when I look at a politician, I look at a politician like a grizzly fucking bear. The grizzly bear is a wild animal. It's a big it's an omnivore technically, but it really likes to eat meat. It hunts actively. It has the digestive apparatus to be able to process meat and lots of it. It's a wild animal. Why would I go out into Yellowstone National Park and treat a wild animal like a cuddly teddy bear that I see in the shops? Those would be ludicrous expectations. They would be retarded expectations. And so as a result, how is it that you think I view grizzly bears, wild grizzly bears? I view them with appropriate expectations. I don't go out into Yellowstone National Park to have an intellectual discussion with the bears. And I do exactly the same with the politicians. My expectations for grizzly bears are way down here, out of the lens of the camera. My expectations for a friendly, mutually beneficial interaction with a grizzly bear is so low that you can't even see it on screen. It's way down around by my ankles. That is how low my expectations are for a friendly, mutually beneficial, bi-directional flow of benefit interaction with a grizzly bear. I have extremely low expectations of grizzly bears, that they are going to actually do something useful for me. In fact, it's very likely that grizzly bears are going to fuck me over. They will hunt me, they will pin me down and eat me alive. That is how I view politicians. I have the same expectations for politicians that I have for grizzly bears. So as a result, folks, when the politicians like Sir Keir Starmer say they're going to do something in the run-up to an election, and then they go back on their word, it turns out that their talk was cheap, it turns out that they're putting other wealthy, rich people's interests before mine, they're putting the bank's interests before mine, they're putting their donors' interests before mine, they are doing things in the country that I don't agree with. Do you think I get irritated or angry at the politicians? Of course not. Do I get angry and irritated at grizzly bears? Of course I don't. They're a wild animal. They're an integral part of the ecosystem. And whether I like it or not, whether I like grizzly bears or not, even if I didn't like them, they're a part of the ecosystem. There's nothing I can do about it. They are out in Yellowstone National Park. Reality is, if I want to go walking or hiking in Yellowstone National Park, there are grizzly bears out there. It's the same here, folks. It doesn't matter what you think of politicians. In the modern world, whether you like it or not, they exist. And whether you like it or not, there's a certain, let's just say, there's a certain category that politicians fall into, just like grizzly bears. And the only reason you're going to get frustrated at politicians is if you have allocated inappropriate or unreasonable expectations towards them. I like bears. I respect bears. I don't have a problem with grizzly bears. I don't want to see all grizzly bears get killed. Just because grizzly bears throughout human natural history have killed a whole bunch of humans, there have been probably thousands of people killed, mauled to death and eaten alive by grizzly bears. Do I think grizzly bears are, quote, evil? Do I think grizzly bears should all be killed? No! They're a wild animal. And so as a result, I allocate appropriate expectations to wild animals, especially big ones that hunt and kill other animals and eat them. So I don't get annoyed or irritated at grizzly bears. And in exactly the same way, I don't get annoyed or irritated at politicians because many years ago, folks, I adjusted my expectations for politicians. I used to get frustrated at them, but that wasn't the fault of the politicians, in exactly the same way as it's not the fault of the grizzly bears. Grizzly bears are wild animals. They will kill and eat people. The responsibility is mine. It's my responsibility to adjust my expectations of everyone and every animal in this life. And so that's what I did years ago. I looked at the politicians and said, you know what? Fair enough. They are what they are. They are a special breed of human. They are here to stay. They aren't going to go anywhere. They are a fundamental part of the world in which I live, just like grizzly bears are a fundamental part of the Yellowstone Natural Park ecosystem. No matter how much I want them not to be here, they're going to be here. So if they're going to be here, if that's a given, if politicians are going to be here and I can't do anything about it, then I should start to look at how I'm allocating expectations towards them. Because if I have unrealistic expectations of politicians, I'm just going to spend my entire life in an eternal state of irritation and frustration. So what did I do years ago? This is the bar of expectation that I used to have for politicians. You know what I did? I dropped the bar down to the level where I have expectations for the grizzly bears. So the politicians and the grizzly bears have the same expectations from me. And so as a result, I no longer get frustrated at politicians because I don't expect them to do anything for me. I don't expect them, when they become Prime Minister or President. I don't expect them to make my life better. And so as a result, I'm not holding my breath on their every word. I'm not tuning in to hear what they had to say. I'm not expecting them to optimize my life. They're irrelevant, basically. They're a fixture of the modern environment, but I'm not depending on them to do stuff for me. I don't expect that from them. And so because I don't expect politicians anymore to do anything for me, I don't get angry or irritated at them. I just view them in the same way that I view a grizzly bear. An integral, a permanent part of the environment in which I inhabit. Such is life. So for those peons that are criticising Sir Keir Starmer, that tells me more about them than it does about Sir Keir Starmer. I know what Sir Keir Starmer is. He's a politician. He has other interests to serve before he's going to serve me. I'm not saying that makes him a good or bad person. He has his own agenda in this life. He has his own interests to serve. He has his own goals and ambitions. I don't expect him to do anything for me. So as a result, I don't hold him up here on a pedestal. I don't put him up here on a pedestal with unbelievably high, unrealistic expectations that he's never going to meet or surpass. I know that if I have my expectations up here, Sir Keir Starmer is going to violate my expectations pretty much every time. And that's just going to lead to me getting frustrated, which is now using up my time, energy, and attention in an unproductive way. I could be using that frustrated energy and time and attention elsewhere in a more productive way that's going to enhance my life. So you see the peons that are complaining about Sir Keir Starmer and wanting him booted out of government. Yeah, it tells me more about them than it does about Sir Keir Starmer. It tells me that they are looking a fucking get out of jail card. They are looking to pass the buck, pass responsibility over to Sir Keir Starmer. They want a reason for why their life is shit. And so they're just happy to sit there like a big fat obese mess and blame Sir Keir Starmer. So that's the first point. Expectations, folks. I'm not angry at Sir Keir Starmer because I have allocated the appropriate expectations to Sir Keir Starmer. Let's have a look at point two. Point number two, folks. In defence of Sir Keir Starmer. You see all these people who are criticising, all the peons who are criticising Sir Keir Starmer. You know what's interesting? I again would say, I'd say I could make a fairly accurate guess, an assumption actually, that you see a very hefty portion of these people who are calling for Keir Starmer to be booted out as Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. I would say a whole bunch of these people criticising Sir Keir Starmer have never in their lives been in a position of leadership. Isn't that funny? You see a whole bunch of these peons criticising Sir Keir Starmer. I bet you they've never even taken an underage fucking sports team, let alone managed a company or been the CEO of a company or managed a group of people. I bet you a whole bunch of these retards out here criticising Sir Keir Starmer, basically regurgitating what the algorithm has told them to regurgitate. These people have never taken a role of responsibility in their life. You know, say what you want about Sir Keir Starmer. You may disagree with his politics. You may disagree with the direction in which he's taking the United Kingdom. But you know what you can't disagree with? He has taken on a very, very competitive and difficult leadership role in the world. He is the fucking Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. That is an extremely stressful, difficult role to carry out. Imagine you, be fair. Come on, folks. Don't cop out. Don't be a cop out. Don't run hiding whenever I bring this point of view up. Be honest. Can you actually imagine what it's like to be in charge of a country? To be in charge of millions of people? To be out there in public with your arse burr, like a burr bum in the wind. Everybody having an opinion on you. People perhaps wanting to kill you. You know what politics is like, folks. It's a dangerous profession. Could you actually imagine what it's like to be in a leadership role like that? Because again, I'll repeat, you see a whole bunch of these people criticising Sir Keir Starmer from their fucking armchairs, which they never leave. They've got such a fucking arse groove in their armchairs that they can't get out of the damn thing. You see all those people? I'd say there's a bunch of them. They've never in their lives been in a position of responsibility whereby they're having to lead other people. Yet here they are, giving their extremely insightful, valid opinion about Sir Keir Starmer. What the fuck? Again, no matter what you think of Sir Keir Starmer, he is in a position where he is taking responsibility. Now, there'll be a whole bunch of people saying, well, he's throwing people under the bus at the moment. Perhaps that's true. But what you can't criticise him for is a lack of ambition. He certainly has ambition. He had enough ambition to want to put himself in a position like this. And so what Sir Keir Starmer can do is Sir Keir Starmer has a perspective that a lot of people who are criticising him will never have. At least Sir Keir Starmer has tried to put himself in a position of leadership where he's leading other people, where he's managing other people. For those who are criticising Sir Keir Starmer, you see, before you start throwing stones at Sir Keir Starmer, how about you put yourself in a position of leadership and see what it feels like? How about you put yourself in a position whereby you are responsible for the salaries of other people, whereby you are responsible for other people's lives and positions of work? How about you do that first before you start throwing stones at Sir Keir Starmer? Because folks, it's kind of funny. You see, when you have been in a position of leadership, let me tell you when I've been in a position of leadership. It happened very recently. And it's the reason why I speak in the way I'm speaking here on this second point in defence of Sir Keir Starmer. My dad died just over 5 months ago. He actually died 5 months ago today, on the 8th of January. It's now the 8th of May. 5 months ago, my father died. My dad trusted me with his treatment. My dad didn't know how to, he wasn't steeped in the scientific community. He wasn't steeped in the scientific world. He didn't really know the scientific terminology. That wasn't his thing. That wasn't his area of expertise. He didn't know how to read a scientific paper, and he didn't know how to communicate with scientific lingo. So what my dad did, he had stage 4 colon cancer. My dad gave me the responsibility of looking after his treatment. He basically said, Mr. Bandido, I'm going to make you the responsible person, the leader of my treatment. You're going to be the one who talks to the oncologists. You're going to be the one who talks to the medical people. You're going to be the one on the Zoom calls. You're going to be the one who is responsible for getting me the information regarding treatments and what it is that I should do. How it is that I should try and tackle this stage 4 cancer diagnosis. My dad made me the responsible party. Now, I failed. He died. I gave my absolute best. I took that role of leadership for his treatment with full responsibility. I didn't pass the buck. I didn't fucking try to blame someone else when he died. It was on me. My dad put his trust in me. He made me the leader of his treatment regime. He made me the responsible person. And folks, It's very interesting because you see when someone puts you in a leadership position like that, that's just a personal example for me, you have a different perspective on people like Sir Keir Starmer. Now, I'm not saying I endorse Sir Keir Starmer's politics. I'm not saying I agree with all the policies that he passes. I'm not saying I agree with the direction in which he's taking the United Kingdom. But you know what I won't do? I won't sit here in my fucking armchair and pretend as if I know better than Sir Keir Starmer. And you know why I'm able to arrive at that conclusion? Is because I have real world experience. Does it get any more serious, folks, than health? Honestly, does it get any more? Is there any greater responsibility to have in this life than someone like your father, who's in a position of weakness, he's ill, and he's not scientifically literate? Is there any greater responsibility or role of leadership to have than your own father, who's ill and frightened for his life, putting his entire trust in you to lead his road to recovery? Is there any greater responsibility than that? That's the responsibility that I felt for 18 months when my dad was ill. I felt that responsibility and I fucking embraced it. I said, you know what? I'm going to give my absolute best to this process of trying to get my dad better. He has trusted me with his treatment protocol. And I'm going to accept responsibility. I'm going to lead. I'm going to be the leader of his path and journey towards recovery. And I failed. That's true. Do you see me bitching, whining, and complaining? No. It was nobody else's fault. I took responsibility. And I was not able to get the job done. But that gives me a unique perspective in many ways. Because no matter what I think of Sir Keir Starmer, no matter what I think of him, I'm not going to sit here and call him this, that, and the other for taking on a role of responsibility. At least Keir Starmer is trying. Now, you may not like the way in which he's trying. You may not like his overall agenda. You may think he's a malevolent actor. I don't give a fuck what you think. Keir Starmer has at least tried to put himself into a position of leadership, a position where he's leading other people and taking responsibility, in this case, for a country. Can you say the same? You see you, peon Phil out there, who's going, Keir Starmer's, he should be kicked out. He should be kicked out. You know you, peon Phil, who has never assumed a role of responsibility in his fucking life. You see you? Are you really that well qualified to talk about Sir Keir Starmer's leadership capabilities? Are you really? Because you see, if you have had a role of responsibility or a leadership role in your life, then you wouldn't really be talking that way about Sir Keir Starmer. Yes, you can critically analyse his politics and his policies and the way that he's behaving, the way that he's handling himself. Nobody's saying that you can't critically analyse him. But to be so flippant, to be so just arrogant in you thinking that you know that you could do a better job. Is that what you're telling me? Could you do a better job of running the UK? Some low IQ peon out there? Some low IQ retard? You're telling me if I gave you right now the keys to 10 Downing Street that you would do a better job than Sir Keir Starmer? Give me a fucking break. Once again, in defence of Sir Keir Starmer, at least, no matter what else you say about Sir Keir Starmer, at least he can actually draw on real world experience of being in a leadership role. At least he can do that. At least he can say that he tried to lead the United Kingdom. He mightn't have led the UK very well, but at least he can say he tried. At least he took on a very powerful, influential role in the world. Can you say the same? I would guess you probably can't. So that's point number 2 of the defense of Sir Keir Starmer. Point number 3, this is going to be the final point, folks, and then we're going to wrap the show up. Finally, I want you to think about this, folks. Is Sir Keir Starmer turning up at your house, you know, with all of his MPs and his private security? Does Sir Keir Starmer turn up at your house with all the other MPs and with his private security and with some of the, with some MI6 operatives? Does Keir Starmer turn up at your house with all those people and threaten you and force you to do things in your life that you don't want to do? Answer that question. Does that happen? Has Keir Starmer ever turned up at your house and forced you at gunpoint to do something that you didn't want to do? What's that? That's right. Silence. Because no, Sir Keir Starmer has never turned up at your house with his own private security and MI6 operatives and forced you to do anything. And this is the final point, folks. When you actually think about this logically, is Sir Keir Starmer stopping you? 2/3 of the population is either overweight or obese. 2/3, 66% of the population is either overweight or obese. Is Sir Keir Starmer turning up at your house and forcing the cake and the cookies and the donuts down your gob? Is that what Sir Keir Starmer's doing? No, that's not what he's doing. You are putting the fucking cookies and the donuts and the cake down your gob. The reason why you're a fat, obese, ugly, misshapen mess is because you self-inflicted this state onto yourself. Keir Starmer didn't do that. The UK government didn't do that. Did Sir Keir Starmer turn up at your house during Christmas? You know, the festive period, folks? 'Tis the season to be jolly. Did Sir Keir Starmer, again, turn up with his private security and his MI6 operatives? And did he force you at gunpoint to get into debt over the festive period? That's right. No, he didn't force you to do that either. He didn't force you to rack up a massive debt on your credit card, did he? Did Sir Keir Starmer turn up at your house and, again, force you to take your credit card, put it into the credit card machine, and, blow all your credit card money and get yourself into debt? Did Sir Keir Starmer force you to go to university and get student loan debt? No, that's right again. No, he didn't. That was a decision that you took. That's correct. Did Sir Keir Starmer turn up at your house? Answer me this, folks. Did Sir Keir Starmer turn up at your house and chain you to your bed so that you can't move and go out into your local community and be of value to your local community? Did Sir Keir Starmer chain you to your bed and put a Neuralink into your mind and control your own thoughts and manipulate your own body? Did Sir Keir Starmer force you to do that? Did Sir Keir Starmer force you to get yourself into a position whereby you have no skills and nothing of value to offer to the world? No, he didn't do that either. Is Sir Keir Starmer turning up at your house and telling you that you're not allowed to go online and make money online as a freelancer? No, he didn't do that either. Is Sir Keir Starmer, his MI6 operatives and his private security turning up at your house and stopping you from maximising your potential in this life? Is Sir Keir Starmer preventing you from going out into your community, talking with other people, talking with other like-minded people who have similar interests to you? Is Sir Keir Starmer stopping you from going out and collaborating with other people? Is Sir Keir Starmer stopping you from getting a fucking plane at the airport, going to a different country and traveling the world and getting a whole bunch of new experiences and meeting new people? No, he's not stopping you from doing that either. Folks, I could keep going. I could just keep going for the rest. I could go for another hour. Another hour of, did Sir Keir Starmer come to your house with his private security and ... I could keep going, folks. Think about it. Of all those just random examples off the top of my head, did Sir Keir Starmer force you to buy a mortgage and get yourself into debt? Force you to buy a car and get yourself into debt? Did Sir Keir Starmer force you to have children that you can't afford? Did he arrive up at your house and, artificially impregnate you? Some chick who's watching this? Did he just stick the sperm into you against your will? Fuck me. When you actually think of this, folks, logically, how is Sir Keir Starmer actually stopping you from doing anything that you want to do in this life? Keir Starmer isn't stopping you from doing what you want to do in this life. Now, I know what you're going to say. But Sir Keir, he's, unchecked migration. Inflation. All right, dipshit. You see, if you're unhappy with inflation, why do you have a mortgage debt? Why do you have a credit card debt? Why did you spend like a retard at Christmas and get yourself into more debt? Why did you have children that you can't afford? Why have you gotten yourself into circumstances whereby inflation is significantly affecting you? Because let me tell you, folks, do you think inflation and the impending energy crisis from the Iran-US-Israel war is affecting me? No, it isn't. The degree to which it is affecting me is fucking minimal. I'm not significantly affected by inflation. I'm not significantly affected by the impending energy crisis. Why am I not I'm a peon. I'm a peasant just like you. I'm not a multi-millionaire. I'm not a billionaire. So how is it that I am unaffected pretty much by inflation, by the energy crisis, by the rising costs? How is it that I'm unaffected, but you are? Do you ever want to ask yourself that question? Because you see, you don't have the get out of jail card with the Bandido, do you? Because you see, I'm not a millionaire. So you can't just say, but you've got loads of money. And you can afford the fancy lawyers and the fancy accountants to hide your money. I'm not a millionaire. Do you see me on Bandido Talks bitching and whining about inflation? About how it's affecting me? About how Keir Starmer should get the chop because of inflation? Do you see me on complaining about, the unchecked immigration? Folks, you see, if I'm really that irritated about the unchecked immigration, you know what I'd do? I'd move somewhere else where there's not unchecked immigration. I'd buy a plane ticket and move somewhere else. You know what I'm not going to do? I'm not going to sit in my armchair and blame Sir Keir Starmer. I'm not just going to sit in my armchair and blame Sir Keir Starmer for inflation and for all the funny business that goes on with the UK government and the UK banks with regards to money. How is that a productive use of my time? Keir Starmer is not stopping me from going out into the world or going into the online space and literally making the most of whatever genetic potential I have in this life. He's not stopping me from doing that. And if I am so pissed off, if I'm just so aggrieved by what Sir Keir Starmer is doing here in the UK, well, you know what I can do? I can move to a different country. You do realise, folks, that you're allowed to do that. But you see, now we hit upon a snag for the average peon. You know why the average peon doesn't want to do that? Because it takes too much effort. Because the average peon is fucking lazy. They are lazy. It would be too much effort for the average peon to pack up their stuff and to move somewhere else and start a new life elsewhere, which tells me something interesting about the complaints from the average peon. In other words, what does it tell me? They aren't really that bothered. Because you see, if you were really bothered about Sir Keir Starmer and about his government, about the Labour government, about how the UK is going down the toilet, you see, if you were really that bothered, and if this was a priority number one in your life, you would be making enormous efforts to move out of the UK and go somewhere else that's more beneficial for your life circumstances. That's what you would do. But you see, the average peon loves to do nothing more than fucking bitch, whine, and complain. Sit there in their armchair, offload responsibility, blame Sir Keir Starmer, go on to social media, allow the algorithm to manipulate their mind, to manipulate their conclusions, sit there like a big fat obese mess and take no responsibility for their own life. Folks, let me tell you something. Never. Keir Starmer must be in his 50s or 60s. Fair enough? He must be in his 50s or 60s. I'm 31. Never in my 31 years on planet Earth has Keir Starmer stopped me from doing anything I wanted to do. Not once. You know, I don't know about you folks, but Sir Keir Starmer has not arrived at my house with his private security and his MI6 operatives and forced me to do something that I didn't want to do. Has that happened to you? Because sure as fuck hasn't happened to me. It's easy to blame Sir Keir Starmer. Again, I'm going to repeat for the particularly retarded people out there who cannot understand what I'm saying. I'm not saying I agree with Sir Keir Starmer. Folks, I don't 100% agree with anybody in this life. So that's a bit of a strange standard to hold someone to. Back to point number one, expectations. Why would I expect myself to 100% agree with anyone, including Sir Keir Starmer? Sir Keir Starmer has his own life to live. He's part of certain clubs that I'm not part of. He swims in circles that I don't swim in. He has his own agenda. He has his own goals and ambitions. He's going to do what he's going to do, just like the grizzly bear is going to do what it's going to do. But what I do know, folks, is that Keir Starmer has never stopped me from going and getting myself in shape. I used to be skinny, a wee skinny mess. Sir Keir Starmer didn't stop me from going and getting into shape. Sir Keir Starmer is not stopping me from making the most of my life. And you see, if I'm that pissed off with Sir Keir Starmer and his Labour government, you know what I can do? There are these things, believe it or not, folks, there are these things called boats and airplanes. And boats and airplanes are very convenient ways that allow us to move from one plot of land on Earth to another plot of land. And you see, if it's really that much of a priority, folks, it won't be a big deal for us to do that because it's number one priority, isn't that right? But you see, the bitchers and the whiners and the complainers, they're just bitching, whining and complaining because they're just looking for a justification as to why their life is truly shit. And they deserve the shit life. I'm glad Sir Keir Starmer doesn't help these people. I'm glad that these people are suffering from whatever policies that Sir Keir Starmer is bringing in. They deserve it. Because number one, folks, you should have your expectations appropriately allocated when it comes to analysing Sir Keir Starmer or any other politician. Number two, you should have an appreciation for what it means to lead any group of people, to become a leader, to take responsibility for any position in life. I've done it with my own dad and I failed. I know what it's like to take responsibility for someone's health. I know what it's like for someone to trust me. The British public are trusting that Sir Keir Starmer is going to do a good job. No matter what you think of Sir Keir Starmer, at least he has the experience. At least he has that perspective. At least his worldview is more balanced than yours. Have you even taken an underage sports team? That would be a start. Because folks, I've also taken an underage sports team. Let me tell you, it's not that easy. It's not that easy trying to get 20 kids to sing off the same hymn sheet. To try and get 20 kids running and moving in the same direction. That's not easy. And anyone who has taken a basic leadership role like that, like managing an underage sports team, will have a bit of appreciation for someone who's Prime Minister of a country. It's about having a balanced mindset, folks. It's oh so easy to criticise Sir Keir Starmer. At least he's putting himself in a position of responsibility. It's a heck of a lot more than what I can say for some of you who've never taken a position of responsibility in your life ever. So you don't even have that experience to draw from. At least Sir Keir Starmer has and will have that experience to draw from. You don't. And then thirdly and finally, Sir Keir Starmer, folks, is one man. He's never stopped me from doing anything that I really wanted to do in life. You see, if I want to play the guitar and release my music and play my tennis and do Bandido talks, Sir Keir Starmer hasn't stopped me. So far in my life, he hasn't stopped me. He's never arrived at my house and interfered in my life. Sure, you could say that Sir Keir Starmer is part broadly of the problem of inflation. He's broadly part of the problem of unchecked migration. He's broadly part of the problem of cultural dilution, of fucking over the British people. You could take that perspective if you want. He's broadly part of the system, of the institutions that are driving these actions and outcomes. If you want to take that perspective, fine. But folks, you see, bitching, whining and complaining, that gets you nowhere. And that's why I come on to that point 3. Keir Starmer hasn't stopped me directly doing anything in my life. And he probably never will. I have the most marvellous access to opportunities in 2026. And the social media algorithms would love to convince you that you have no opportunity, that you have no hope. We talked about this recently on a Lessons in Nature episode about Figgy, my fig plant, apparently dying. The social media algorithms, incidentally, I would encourage you to check out that most recent Lessons in Nature. It was a good show about Figgy the fig plant. That will mean absolutely nothing to you if you've not seen that Lessons in Nature. Go on to the main Bandido Talks channel here on YouTube. You'll find it under the playlist Lessons in Nature. It's the most recent episode. But what I was going to say was, the algorithms, the social media algorithms, and the media as a whole would love for you to think that there's no opportunities in life, would love to place you in a hopeless state, would love to place you in a state whereby you're just so unbelievably cynical and pessimistic that you give up on life. The algorithms want you to do that. The algorithms want you to offload responsibility. The algorithms do not want you to self-reflect and to look at taking self-accountability for your own actions. That wouldn't be good, because when you start to take responsibility for your own life, folks, guess what starts to happen? Your life starts to get better, surprise, surprise, because you stop passing the buck. You stop looking for an excuse as to why your life is shit. And see, when you stop looking for excuses, you look inwards and you start looking for the lessons as to why you're feeling. You start to look for the feedback that tells you why you are feeling. Not the reason why Sir Keir Starmer is making you feel, why you are feeling. And you see, whenever you start to get that feedback in, you start to create a virtuous cycle whereby you start to learn lessons from your mistakes. You start to learn lessons from errors in general. You start to extract more and more understanding. You reduce the amount of distortion in your worldview. You start making more accurate decisions. Sir Keir Starmer isn't stopping you from engaging in that self-reflective process, that self-critical, self-analytical process whereby you take full responsibility for your own actions, just like I did for my dad. I took full 100% responsibility for his treatment protocol. And yes, I didn't get the outcome that I was looking. He did die. But do you not think I learned a shit ton across the last 18 months? Think about it, folks. Do you not think I learned so much across the last 18 months when my dad was ill? I can't tell you how much I learned. Phenomenal. A phenomenal amount of information was taken into my brain and digested. And I learned so many valuable lessons about life, about health. Those are going to stand to me. If I were to offload responsibility for my dad's death and blame someone else, I would not have learned those lessons and I would have been worse off. It's the same for you. Stop blaming Sir Keir Starmer. Stop blaming politicians. Stop blaming governments and institutions and start taking responsibility for your own life. You see, if you want to blame someone, folks, you know who you should blame? You. Blame you. If you're not in optimal circumstances in life, blame yourself. Take responsibility and start asking yourself the hard questions. Why am I a fat, obese mess? Why do I not have enough money? Why do I not have enough resources? Why can I not bag the chick that I want to bag? Why am I failing in the friendship arena? If you're some chick, why can I not get the man that I want to get? Start asking yourself the hard questions. In order to ask yourself the hard questions, you must first take responsibility. If you don't take responsibility, you will never wander into the terrain of asking the hard questions. And that is my overall defense of Sir Keir Starmer. I don't blame him for the state that my life currently finds itself in. The state that my life currently finds itself in has fucking nothing to do with Sir Keir Starmer. It's to do with me. If I want to change my trajectory in life, I need to do something about it. I don't need to be looking to Sir Keir Starmer. He has his own problems. He has his own agenda. He has his own people that he needs to please. I'm going to be looking inwards and asking myself the hard questions. I'm not going to sit on a fucking armchair and start offloading responsibility to Sir Keir Starmer. So there it is, folks. That's the defense of Sir Keir Starmer. Do I think Sir Keir Starmer is a bad man? I don't know the man. And no, I think, as I've said before, these very childish categories of good and bad, I think they're nonsense. Good and bad is very subjective. Very subjective. Do I think Sir Keir Starmer is a bad man? Honestly, based on what I've heard from him, based on his actions, I don't think he's a bad man. He's a self-interested man. He has his own agenda. He has his own things that he wants to do in life. Maybe he's getting threatened, because when you get to the top of a political dominance hierarchy like Sir Keir Starmer has, it comes with a lot of risk. I don't view him as a bad man. I view him as someone who has a different agenda to me in this life. That doesn't make him bad. It doesn't make me bad. I'm self-interested too. We have different agendas. It's very unlikely that Sir Keir Starmer's agenda is going to overlap with the Bandidos. That doesn't make him a bad man. The question is, are you going to use Sir Keir Starmer's a bad man and fucking over my life? Are you going to use that pathetic excuse as a means to justify your shit existence? You know what? If you want to do that, you continue to live in that delusional world. Because I honestly don't care. Because you see, if you just want to continue to offload responsibility and blame Sir Keir Starmer, great. You know who's going to lose out? You. Sir Keir Starmer isn't going to lose out. You will. Your life will continue to be shit, and you will go to the grave. You will push up the daisies, having lived a shit life, because you never learned the lessons. You never took responsibility that was going to allow you to ask the hard questions, learn the hard lessons, engage in a process of improvement, get better at making better decisions, and move yourself towards more optimal circumstances in life. You will have the opposite life experience to that. You'll have a shit life. And you know what? As I've said before, folks, the universe is very giving. If that's the attitude through which you're going to live your life, you deserve what you get. And be worried, folks, because you see the conclusions that you've come to about Sir Keir Starmer. I would put a hefty amount of money on the fact that those conclusions weren't even formed by your own brain. I think they were formed by a social media algorithm telling you to dislike Sir Keir Starmer, telling you to jump on the bandwagon of criticising him. Because you see, as long as you continue to do that, you see, as long as you continue to look to the exterior, looking to blame someone else, you never ask yourself the hard questions. You're never self-accountable. You never take responsibility. And you see, so long as you don't take responsibility and you don't ask the hard questions, you'll never get out of the rat race. And you'll forever be a slave. And you know what? You deserve your slave status. Because now you've been given the heads up. If you've made it this far in the show, it's time to start taking personal responsibility for your own existence, folks. All right, so there we go. There's your curveball to start your weekend off. The Bandido defending Sir Keir Starmer. Who would have thought they would have seen the day? But anyway, let's have a look at the live chat. I think we've got a few live chats here. Let's have a look and see. Who do we have? Well, we've got a couple of live chats. Let's see. We've got a live chat from Deje. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. D-E-J-E. Deje. Deje. We'll go with Deje. I don't know if that's correct. On we go. Let's see what Deje is saying. His first comment is nothing other than Sir Keir. Now look, I know there are a lot of interesting rumours surrounding Sir Keir's, let's just say, relationship status. What turns Sir Keir on? There are a lot of rumours about this. Some people say that he might be a bit more like Rob Jetten in the Netherlands. We did a show on Rob Jetten, the new Prime Minister of the Netherlands, the first openly gay Prime Minister in the Netherlands. Some people would argue that Sir Keir is a little bit more like Rob Jetten in the Netherlands. He might have a taste, for the same sex, let's just say. Hence why, perhaps Deje is saying, Sir Keir. Now look, that is perhaps beyond the scope of our discussion today. I don't want to engage or get embroiled in all the gossip surrounding Sir Keir's love life. I don't know what Sir Keir gets up to behind closed doors. We're told that Sir Keir has a wife. We are told he has a wife. But folks, we can't just take that at face value either. We have to be fair and honest. Because many's a man has had a wife and children. And then it's turned out that they were crooked. That they were a bit twisted. And I mean that in the sense that they were a bit, let's just say that their romantic ambitions went beyond the female realm. We can leave it at that. What Sir Keir wants to get up to in his spare time, I don't care, to be quite honest. Because whether it's Sir Keir or Sir Keir, it really doesn't have any impact on my life. If Sir Keir Starmer is as crooked as my finger. It literally has zero impact on my life. And do I really want to be engaging in a whole, a big deep dive into Sir Keir's love life? Is he really gay? Or is he really straight? Or is he bisexual? Or is he a lucky charm? Does he identify as a lucky charm these days? I don't know. That's for Sir Keir to answer. What I do know is, me dedicating time, energy, and attention to trying to figure that out is, when we would talk about probabilities, it's probably a waste of time. It's not going to enhance my life. So I fundamentally don't care. Sir Keir, Sir Queer, he can have it. Whatever he wants to get up to behind closed doors, he can fire away. All right. Second comment is also from Deji. Or Deji. Oh dear. Is the Bandido, is he butchering his pronunciation? Let's have a look and see. He says the following. I understand what you're saying about him, even if I don't like him. I'm from the US. Well, he's from the US, the United States. So you've got the old Donald over there then, Deji. Well, that's the thing. We could broadly apply this to any politician. I mean, and it goes back to what I've said earlier. I understand that Deji says that he doesn't like him. That's fine. You don't have to like Sir Keir Starmer. You don't have to like Donald Trump. You don't have to like any of these politicians. That's fine. Everybody can have an opinion about their policies, their politics, their actions, the direction in which they are taking their country. That's fine. But to blame them for why your life is shit, that to me is where I draw a line. You can have an opinion. That's absolutely fine. But to then try to offload why your life is shit onto Donald Trump, onto Sir Keir Starmer, the question that we all have to ask ourselves is, are we in a position of power in terms of our health, our physical safety, and our financial situation? You need to ask yourself that. Is your health as good as it can be? Are you physically safe in the town or city in which you live, or in the countryside where you're living? And are you financially secure? You need to start looking at the rules of the game. I mean, just broadly speaking. Not Deji, but just anyone who may be listening to this. You need to look at life through that lens. The rules of the game are the rules of the game. The politicians aren't going anywhere. Fact of reality. So, to me, it doesn't make much sense. That's what we're talking about throughout the show. It doesn't make much sense me getting frustrated and angry at someone or at this group that we're going to call politicians when they aren't going to go anywhere, and better still, I can't make them disappear, even if I wanted to. So Deji understands what I'm saying about Sir Keir, even if he doesn't like him. Again, I would actually say most of what Sir Keir Starmer does, talking about his actions, folks, fuck the words. We've talked about this so many times on the show. Sir Keir Starmer has come out after these disastrous local elections here in the UK. And he's giving his speeches, he's going on about how, we need to take responsibility. We have lost some key councillors here in the Labour Party. And I take full responsibility. Folks, I don't like his accent. When we talk about judging a book by its cover, I don't really like how he looks either. He has a certain appearance that looks weak. He looks weak. He looks like he would bend over and take orders from someone else. I could be wrong about that. That's just what the cover of the book tells me. He looks like a weak man. When I see him up talking in public, he looks scared, he looks frightened, he looks nervous. He doesn't look firm. Like, at least with Trump. At least Trump has a bit of aura about him as a leader. He has a bit of authority about his presence. Sir Keir Starmer doesn't look like that. He looks like a scared child a lot of the time. So, I don't agree necessarily with the direction that Keir Starmer is taking the UK. I don't agree with a lot of his actions. I don't need to listen to his words. I know what he's probably going to say. He's going to come out with some garbage to try and convince me that his party is still the best party. Vote for Labour. I don't need to listen to the words. I just need to watch his actions. And yes, when I judge the cover of the book, he doesn't look authoritative. He doesn't look like he would put his foot down. He does look like he's short a few percentage points of testosterone. That is true. Going back to the earlier comment, Sir Keir, there does look like there's not exactly a full tank of testosterone there. And maybe that means he's more susceptible to getting bossed around and pushed around. I don't know. Pure speculation. The point is, I don't care. I don't care what Sir Keir Starmer fundamentally wants to do with the UK, because I can't influence what he's going to do with the UK. What's going to happen is going to happen. It's an uncontrollable. So honestly, from my perspective, it is a misuse of my time, energy, and attention trying to change the institutions, trying to change Sir Keir Starmer's mind, trying to change the government. Waste of time. I'm only going to be alive, probably, if I'm lucky, for another 40 years. If I get another 40 years, I'll be doing well. I'm not going to misuse my time trying to convince other people or trying to convince the government to behave differently. The incentive structure is so skewed. The institutions have become so enormous that that is a waste of my precious time, energy, and attention. I'm not going to do that. So yeah, I agree with Deji. You can dislike someone. You can have your reasons for disliking them. That's fine. You can have your opinion of their politics and their policies. You can have your opinion of them as a leader. You can have your opinion of how they look. You can have your opinion about their actions when they're in their position of power and leadership. But let us draw a very firm line here, folks, between having your opinion, which is fine, and then blaming them for why your life is shit. That is where I draw the line. And we don't want to fall into that trap. I don't know what Deji's opinion is on Trump, politicians in general, but folks, just like a grizzly bear, I'm not going to be able to convince a grizzly bear not to kill and eat me. If I'm out in Yellowstone National Park and the grizzly bear wants to attack and kill me, and I don't have a gun that I'm able to use effectively, I'm not going to be able to deter or convince the grizzly bear not to do that. The grizzly bear has grizzly bear psychology. It has grizzly bear incentive structures in its psychology. It sees me as prey. It sees me as calories. There's no amount of talking. It doesn't understand me. It doesn't understand English. So what I need to do is make sure that I'm not trying to essentially make something that's an uncontrollable into a controllable. Because it isn't. What a grizzly bear is an uncontrollable. Politicians are going to do what they're going to do. They are uncontrollables. Same with governments. It's far more productive, instead of looking outwards, to look inwards and fix what is under your control. Manage your controllables. Governments and politicians are uncontrollables. Look inwards. Manage your controllables. And sure, you can have your opinion, but make sure the opinion stays over here. Don't allow that opinion to bleed over. You know that line, folks. Don't allow the opinion to wander over into the terrain of absolving yourself of responsibility and blaming the politicians. Bad idea. In general. Anyway, that seems to be all of our live chats. Let me take that phone down. And that draws our show to a close. It's a long show, folks. We've been going for an hour and 45 minutes. My goodness me. I thought I was going to rattle through this quickly. The universe had different plans for me, it would seem. But anyway, that draws the show to a close. Again, folks, I would encourage you. Actually, before I encourage you to write a comment down in the comment section, I want to thank Deji for getting into the live chat. He's engaging with the show. Over in the US, we've got a United States viewer of Bandido Talks. How about that? The wonders of the internet. So we want to thank Deji for getting into the live chat. And I would also encourage you, if you're watching this live show replay, get down into the comments, just like Deji got into the live chat. Get down into the comments, let me know if you agree or disagree of my defense of Sir Keir Starmer. Again, hit the like button, give us a little thumbs up, give us a thumbs down if you disagree. Feedback, folks, it's critical. Critical, we need feedback to orient ourselves in space, to give us a sense of direction. Feel free to drop your feedback in the comments or with the like or dislike buttons. And then finally, folks, feel free to subscribe to Bandido Talks here on YouTube. We are live on Universal Bandido time. The Bandido does his live shows when he wants to, the day he wants, at the time he wants. You're going to have to subscribe to get notified, folks. Again, we are also live over on Rumble. So feel free to follow Bandido Talks over on Rumble. We do different live shows over on Rumble. I think we've got like 35 live shows, completely different live shows that are not here on YouTube, over on Rumble. So use the scrolling black banner below, it'll be coming up in a second, to direct yourself over to Rumble. Subscribe to Bandido Talks over on Rumble. Subscribe here on YouTube. Folks, we've got a new segment coming for you tomorrow. A brand new series called Bandido Swings. Bandido Swings. The Bandido is going to do a brand new series. The first episode, if I can get the video completely finished, will drop tomorrow evening. Bandido Swings is where the Bandido is out on court, playing a bit of tennis. The Bandido likes his tennis. And I'm going to invite you on a little journey as the Bandido tries to finally sort out his service motion on the court. So there's going to be a new little series dropping tomorrow. The first episode of Bandido Swings. The Bandido was out on court playing tennis, and we've got a really good little show lined up for you, actually. We do a nice little breakdown afterwards, after the footage. You're going to get footage of the Bandido out on court playing tennis. So if you're a tennis fan, you may enjoy that, or just a sports fan in general. Plenty of lessons to be learned. So that's going to be dropping tomorrow. Again, folks, subscribe. You're going to get notified about all of this stuff. And then finally, feel free to follow over on X. Bandido Talks over on X. You'd be notified of any live shows upcoming over there as well. So anyway, that draws us to a close, our defense of Sir Keir Starmer. Folks, you enjoy the rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, your day in general. The weekend is incoming. Enjoy the next few days, Saturday and Sunday. That'll be me for this week. Live show-wise, we've got that Bandido Swings episode dropping tomorrow. Should be a good show, folks. Tune into that. On the court, swinging the racket. The Bandido's trying to be like Roger Federer. Trying to be like Roger Federer. But anyway, folks, that's everything from me. And with all of that said, it is over and out this week on YouTube from the Bandido.